All right. That was a really engaging presentation, really reflective of the readability of this book. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to check it out. It fits in your purse so nicely. And I mean, every page has so many amazing, eye-opening revelations about how we eat, and so much more than you could even fit into just an hour and a half. But one of the running themes through all of this is that we're making these decisions without realizing it. And so what I want to know first off from you, are these learned behaviors, or how much of this is just instinctual because of evolution?
Yeah, I think most of these end up being very patterned behaviors that we end up coming upon ourselves. We either watch our parents do some things, or we just mindlessly do what comes naturally. So for instance, with little kids, even 4-year-old kids, we find you send them through a buffet, they are so excited to just play and talk with their friends, they'll just do the first thing that sort of impulsively comes to mind. They'll grab the first food, even if they don't really like it. And there's tremendous pack behavior too, that if you can get one little kid to do something, or if you can get even mommy or daddy to do something, oftentimes the kids will imitate it if the environment's right.
So you can unlearn the behaviors that you have picked up from your parents, or
exactly.
But then other things, are just you were talking about like seasonality. That when it's fall, you're going to eat more. Yeah. And it's hard to stop that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Right. What's the weight gain difference over fall versus winter?
Yeah, they think it's about 3 to 5 pounds, depending on the person.
Oh, man. So Jamie Oliver made a big splash a few years ago. Did you watch any of that Food Revolution show?
Nope.
Oh, intentionally? Because that was, I kind of got on the anti-chocolate milk campaign, kind of watching the show, and I bought into the whole, well, it's got sugar in it, we're trying to reduce sugar consumption, let's cut it out. But I think that you're right that maybe before we make these big drastic changes, to meditate on these and realize what the consequences are.
Yeah, and Jamie's a really good guy. I've had 2 or 3 meals with him over the past. He's a really fun guy. He's a really engaged guy. His heart's really in the right place. But not all of that's his thinking. Some of that thinking ends up being sort of, well, how's this going to play in a different way? And that's like sort of some of the people behind him.
Like the 5% versus the 95%.
Yeah, and one of the things is that all we think about is scalability and stickability. Because to do an intervention that takes 20 people to be in a school district for 3 years, and then you hope by some miracle it's going to continue, is not sustainable. And taking Jamie Oliver, if we could all afford to have an amazing chef in our schools, I'm still not even sure that would change the way most kids eat.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot easier to put a fruit bowl next to the cash register than have somebody say, here's my creme de la creme broccoli.
And do all the training that's involved with that, and and then the
Wow.
cost of ingredients, and then it gets to be a much more complicated solution. Were you surprised when you first started doing this research that the results transcended race and class and gender and geography?
Yeah, and culture even. Yeah, because I always thought, well, there's got to be some people who are really good at resisting this. We found that there's very few people who are good at resisting this. When we put people in a lab situation, whether they be Russians, or whether they be Dutch people, or whether they be rich or really super poor, it has this massive impact on everybody if they're out of an environment that's really patterned. And no American is it, unless you have a friend who eats oatmeal every single day for the last 50 years of their life. No American is in a patterned environment. Most of our breakfasts are random from day to day even. The only time we see foreign people being immune to this is when they have a daily routine that is invariant. Meaning, you're a Dutch guy, you get up, you have a roll, a piece of cheese, and some carne milk, and that's your breakfast. And you do that every day. Well, your breakfast isn't going to be influenced. The rest of your meals might, though.
Don't you find, though, when we're in grocery stores that we're putting the same 50 items in our cart every week?
But part of that ends up being because about 82% of all the main meals we make are made up of some variation of 6 different things. 6 different stuff. One might be pasta, we make spaghetti.
Pasta, rice, sausage, broccoli. That's what
Well, we make a pasta dish. We maybe make steak. We maybe fried chicken. Yeah. And a little bit over 82% of most of our meals that we cook are comprised of variations of just 6 different main meals.
Wow. That's crazy. So when you are walking around a grocery store, or you're driving around and you have this impulse to eat, thankfully, not so thankfully, big food companies have really mastered this art of of capturing your behavior and almost manipulating it without you realizing that you're participating in that. And that could be the Happy Meal that may or may not be making you happy. Or, in the grocery store, I read that interesting thing you shared on Twitter the other day about the cereal mascots, and that the gaze of the eyes of the cereal mascots is calculated so that it's looking directly at the eyes of the kids who are with you in the grocery stores. So what can we learn from these guys who've really figured this out and who are using it in ways to maybe fill us with things that aren't so great, but how can we use it to reverse that?
That's a great question. I've known a lot of these people in these different areas, and I don't really think they know much more than we know. They always seem astounded when they end up reading something. I think they stumble on some things upon accident, but they don't always know when they're even doing things right. But what's interesting about a lot of them is that a lot of the things, and the reason we initially did the gaze study was to figure out healthy cereals don't really sell in supermarkets very well to the kids. You say, well, why would it be? Well, if you look at the boxes, it's like, God, it looks like horse food. It's like, look, kids, my cashy go lean. It's like, looks like, Grandpa's oat bin.
Yeah.
And so, what can they do? And so we did this really great. There's a lot of people who think in school lunches, there shouldn't be any branding in schools because branding's evil, all marketing's evil. Well, we did a study that was published in Pediatrics a while back that showed who benefits most from branding. It's healthy products. Because if you have a brand, let's say you put Elmo on a cookie, are you going to sell any more cookies? No, because cookies are great the way they are. You put Elmo on a thing of carrots, carrot sales almost triple. Yeah. And so we were trying to figure the same way, what can they do to sell more healthy items?
So to take some of those, yeah.
And the thing is, grocery stores are really interested in this because a lot of the healthy things have much higher profit margins. Mm-hmm. Like fruits and vegetables have a lot higher profit margin than candy bars because if they spoil, you're out cost that you spent on fruits and vegetables.
So are grocery stores changing how they display food and market it to try to capture some of those extra dollars? That seems like a logical economic choice that they would make.
Yeah, it is. And I met with 20 of the largest grocery store chains and consumer advocacy groups last Thursday in Washington, D.C. to pitch this idea of coming up with a supermarket scorecard, 100 changes that can be made, most of them in the produce aisles, lean meat, lean dairy, and the checkout things to get people to shop better and to shop more intelligently. And they seem to be all over this. Yeah. So they're really, really happy.
Are we getting better at reading labels? Like you talked about lean dairy just now, I started thinking about the expanding yogurt section. Not just are there 5 or 6 different kinds of yogurt, now there are 50 or 100 different kinds of yogurt, and there's Greek and fat-free Greek, and you have to spend some time pouring through the labels to make sure you're buying what you want to buy. But are consumers actually reading these new, we've got the new changes that are coming with the nutritional labels. Are they looking at them, or is that?
I don't know if things are different now than they were 3 years ago. We did a series of studies 3 years ago, and we found that labels influence between 15 to 25% of people. 15 to 25% of people end up reading labels in any given situation, but a lot of them end up being us. They're people who wouldn't be influenced for the most part anyway. We might pick up a Coke, we might say, 140 calories, I thought I had 135. But we're already so, in the zone anyway that it doesn't influence us all that much. Yeah. And we did this really cool study a while back, which we have yet to publish, yet another one of those famous unpublished studies. And one of the things we want to look is, why is it that when you put calorie labeling on fast food restaurants, people don't buy the better stuff? And one of the things we varied all sorts of stuff, and we found that to us, calories are bad. We see them and we think, evil little fat cells. But a lot of the people, I don't know how often you guys eat fast food, but a lot of people who eat fast food a whole lot view calories a little bit differently. They kind of go, how full can I get for $3.50? Yeah. Calories tell you how full you're going to get. How much am I going to enjoy this for $3.50? Well, calories well, generally tell you what's going to taste better.
They determine the fat, yeah. And I think, you know, occasionally popping into these restaurants and or shopping in grocery stores or shopping in parts of town that you don't usually, I think it's important for, you know, food professionals, people who are concerned about this, to not get caught up in our kind of la la land. Everybody can shop at the farmer's market every week, and that's, we get idyllic in our thinking about how things should be, but we lose track of how things actually are. That's a personal thing that I've kind of come across in my food writing.
That's a great insight too. Yeah, I mean, if everybody could visit a school lunchroom, but if everybody could, you know, eat fast food every once in a while, even if they just order a salad and just observe what other people are doing, that's really great.
Get the salad.
Well, no, because it's really easy to fall out of touch.
Yeah.
That's a great insight.
Hey, so would kids fall for the stale popcorn experiment? Because I don't know that mine would.
Oh, your normal everyday kids?
I don't know. I mean,
whose mommy wins awards writing about food?
I have you all fooled. So I have a 3-year-old who lives on yogurt and cereal, and I have a 7-year-old who only ate yogurt and cereal for 4 years probably. You know, so I mean, I feel like my struggle is not getting them to eat less; it's getting them to eat. And I, you know, because they're young, you know, we're kind of in that phase, and getting them to eat, not watching the television. That's one of the struggles that we have. So we face the same struggles that I feel like a lot of families do. But I've tried to occasionally throw them new things, or you know, or even give them. You know, like the grapes that we're trying to finish up because they're starting to get a little squishy, and they won't eat them. They just refuse to. And we were talking about meat analogs, like those meat substitutes. I wanted to see if I could fool my kids into eating the fake meat. This was just last week. And so we got the Beyond Meat, the chicken strips that apparently have the texture that, you know, it's so chicken-like. And so we had some leftover rotisserie chicken. So I mixed it all up on the plate with some little strips of the real chicken and the fake chicken. And then I put barbecue sauce and ketchup on the plate. I was really putting on my Brian hat. And then I made the experiment not about the chicken, but about the sauces. And I asked them to see if they, because I wanted to see if they would accidentally eat the fake chicken. He took one bite of it and tasted both of the sauces, made his declaration about what he thought of the sauces, and then put it down and didn't want to touch the chicken again. So I couldn't fool him on that. So we're going to see if we try again. But to be honest, I didn't really like the chicken analog either. So. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of really cool things you can do. I mean, I've got a book coming out called Slim by Design, but the one after that, and actually it looks at all kids stuff. But there's a lot of interesting things you can do that using sort of behavioral science to get kids eat better. So one of the things we found is that, you know, let's say my kids eat a lot of fast food. That is on the days when I'm in charge of meals, and you know, but they oftentimes have a choice whether they want they get French fries or apple slices. Well, you don't want them to take French fries. You want to take apple slices. But you can't force them on them. And so we did this really cool study with a summer program, and these are 5 to 10-year-old kids. And if you were to ask a kid, hey, what do you want? We're going to go to the drive-thru. Do you want apple slices or French fries? What are kids going to say? Yeah. In fact, about 95% say French fries. And you can't say, well, yeah, but are they healthy for you? So what we found you need to do is you need to interrupt a person's script and make them think about French fries and apples in a different way, and then re-ask them. So what we'd say is, okay, hey, what do you think Batman would eat? Apple slices or French fries? And they might answer apple slices, they might eat French fries, but then if you say, what do you want, apple slices or French fries? Without judging them, without answering, what we find is about 45% of those kids then choose apple slices. But it doesn't have to be Batman. It could be anybody. We ask, you know, what would the Joker eat? He's a bad guy. It doesn't matter how they answer then. It's sin. It goes up. We ask, what would your best friend eat? What would your teacher eat? Yeah. And this thing of just stepping out from what you want in the moment to reflect has a big impact. But we found that it also, when this research came out, it won this little honor. And we found that a bunch of Weight Watchers groups heard about it. And they do that as a technique for themselves. They say, okay, what do I want? Do I want the soup, the French onion soup, or do I want the boring salad? Well, you know, what would Cindy, you know, my best friend, eat? Mm-hmm. You know, I'll get the salad. And the power of this is if they choose, they eat it. I'll give you an example back to your kids. We brought a bunch of kids in. These are junior high kids. And we gave them for lunch summer thing, we gave them little bags of carrots. We found about 40-some% of kids eat carrots. Okay, most of them just throw it away. Well, another group of kids that came in and we said, okay, what do you want? A bag of carrots or a bag of rotting celery? We didn't say rotting celery, it just looked like it was rotting. And almost every kid takes carrots. But when we do it that way, over 70% of the kids eat the carrots because they made that decision. Yeah. And that's, with terrible chicken, I don't know if you can pull that off, though.
Yeah. At least he didn't make us think about it. He didn't, throw a fit. But so I also struggle with how much can I kind of toe the line of lying to them, white lies about what is or is not available, or, it's like if you're in the drive-thru, it's like, oh, sorry, kids, they're out of French fries today. I mean, what do you recommend? Or like telling them that, it's like the rainforest smoothie example from the book. It's like, rather than saying this is tomato juice, sort of putting a different label on it, but then they say, are there tomatoes in here? Like, do you come out and say it? Because if you say yes, they might not eat it. I don't know. Do you have a philosophy about?
Yeah, well, a couple of approaches. I mean, for the first thing, what I do when we go to places is, I'll say, okay, you want to go to Taco Bell after church today? Yeah, we'll do that, but you're not going to get any chips. You're going to be able to get this or this. And if they agree up front, then we go to Taco Bell. They go, oh, I'm like, okay, we're going home. I'm like, no. And you do that 1 week, and all of a sudden they agree to anything you want. Yeah. The second thing, one of the things that we find is incredibly powerful is we tell stories about food when it's served. We'll say, oh, so this is parsnips. And what do parsnips look like? Oh, they look like carrots. Well, yeah, that's how they're growing and blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, it's cooler, it's more interesting. Mm-hmm. And so I never really lie to them, but I make up
little
crazy
stories,
names.
Yeah, well, like your food lab stuff is always so interesting because people don't know, like the wine label, the North Dakota wine versus the California wine, and you think that the experiment is going to be about are they going to like the wine or not? But it's really about it was all $2 Chuck, by the way. How much did they enjoy the food, and then how long did they stay to enjoy the meal? And so the North Dakota wine people, this is in the food lab, that half of the dining room, they stayed like 10 or 15 minutes less than the people who had the California wine, and they didn't like their food at all.
Kind of the funny thing about that is too, when people would leave, I'd ask the people who thought they had California wine if they wanted to make reservations to come back, and about 50% of them made reservations to come back. When we asked the people who thought they'd had North Dakota wine, almost nobody made reservations to come back. And this one guy goes, no, he says, I'm really busy for the rest of my life.
That was a good one. That was really smart. Let's see, what else did I want to ask you? Oh, another thing you read about was being a gatekeeper, and it also goes back to letting kids be part of the process of choosing, letting the kids be part of the cooking process or the shopping process or the, getting them involved. But yeah, is that one of the only ways that you can be a good gatekeeper? What other ways can we improve that kind of process?
That's a great question. And a lot of people, like a lot of parents I know, say, there's no way I can control what my family eats. And once they say that, they kind of wipe their brow because they're not responsible anymore once they sort of make that declaration. But we find out instead that on average, the typical parent is responsible for about 72% of what their family eats. But it's either for the better or for the worse. It's, for the better if you have a fruit bowl, not a cookie bowl. It's for the better if you go to a restaurant that has salad, not just a bloomin' onion. It's for the better if you give your kids a little snack pack to take to school instead of just saying, here's $4, buy whatever you want to. Okay. Well, before it deteriorates any farther, Dr. Hofstein.
That was a good one.